Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is 100% light, love, oneness, and benevolence for all. And I just wanted to kind of go into a continuation of the video that I just did. I did about an 11-minute video and I ran out of room. Which is very ironic since that's my theme, is kind of cleaning house. So I'll be cleaning that out hopefully today, along with some other things. I just wanted to kind of go into the continuation. So if you haven't watched that video, I invite you to go back and watch it. And what I was saying before I was cut off is coherence, talking about the heart. I talk about it all the time. I talk about it in going to heart math. But the easiest way to get into coherence, you don't need a machine to tell you if you're in coherence. But if you are in a space of, and I think I ended talking about going down that flight of stairs. If you've fallen down that flight of stairs and you're in that space and you don't know how to get back up, or you don't know where you're at and you're just very discombobulated, that might be a good tool to use. Obviously, get a session with somebody, go do some body work, have somebody that you feel guided to work with, connect with them, reach out, maybe see a therapist. I know a couple of people who've recently started seeing therapists, and I do believe that therapy in itself can be very rewarding. It can be very helpful. I do believe a lot of therapists are thinking outside of the old box of what therapy represented. So there's a lot of different things. I have people that I connect with that are beautiful star seeds who do multiple versions of therapy combined with yoga, combined with energy work. So there's a lot of help out there. It's a matter of us recognizing that we're not in coherence and it's time to make a shift or make a change. So I'll provide some of those links on this video on the description, if I can remember to. So I will remember to. Having said that, oftentimes if we have some major event happen in our lives and we go, what happened? For example, a spouse just comes out of the blue and says, I want a divorce. We then know that there's something in that relationship that we were asleep to. And that's okay. Now we're not. So in that moment, obviously, there's a lot that goes through, a lot of trauma when that happens. This is happening to a lot of people, by the way, on both ends. Usually, if we look back, we can see some sort of pattern, or I'm going to use the stairs as an example. And somewhere along the way, there were stairs that we missed, that we didn't look at because we were too busy looking at other things. Not to say that it's the fault of anyone involved. It just sometimes is what it is. Sometimes people grow in different directions. And that's also part of what's going on with all of this shift energetically. And I wasn't planning on going here, but I'm just going to take it this inflow. Relationships are changing. And either we're evolving together or we're evolving apart. And it's that simple. Now, I say it's that simple. It's that simple if you're in your heart. If you're in a space of love and you're balanced and coherent, we then can recognize if the love is still there for our partner, then we can work it out. We can grow together, and we can communicate in such a way that allows us to hold space for one another to then grow together. That does not mean in the exact same way. So I'm sharing this because this was a question that came up, and I wasn't planning on going this direction, like I said, but I'm just going to touch on this briefly. The question that came was, what if my spouse is asleep? There's so much that this can go into. And ultimately, the answer that I always get from my guides is it's not about our spouse. It's not about our partner. It's not about our whomever we're with. It's us. Now, I'm going to touch on that briefly because I can tell this is something that's going on pretty big in the collective right now. if we're here and we're in a space of gratitude and we're doing what makes us happy, again, my guidance team is like, bring it back to the tuning fork. Our spouse, our partner, our loved one is going to tune in to that frequency. If they cannot tune into that frequency, and I want to be really clear about this, they're asking me to kind of clarify. So when I say tune into our frequency, it doesn't mean follow our path or do what we think they need to do or act how they need to act or be involved in the same things we're involved in. Sometimes when we're waking up or when we're going through this journey, and I went through this, I wanted my spouse to be 100% on board with me. Like, I'm seeing this, and I had this visitor last night, and I'm speaking in light language, and this happened. And my spouse was not on board in the beginning. And we went through a very big, I'm getting goosebumps everywhere, so this is very relevant for a lot of people right now. We went through a very big transition apart together. I was going through my stuff and he was going through his stuff. And I had to get past the need for him to be on board. Now, I want to clarify that in just a minute. That doesn't mean that he didn't eventually become on board, because now he is. What I mean is I had to get past my need for him to see things my way. I had to get past my need for, I didn't feel that he was in that moment able to support me in this journey because I wasn't feeling like I was able to support myself, if that makes sense. Once I figured out that I don't need him to support me in that way, I need to support myself, then he realized that everything was going to be okay. Now, I share this because it was a big turning point for me. I did go through that, is this going to work? And so did he. Not for a long period of time. We didn't live apart, but we were doing our own thing completely separate of one another for quite some time because he didn't understand what I was going through, and I didn't understand how he couldn't understand what I was going through. In addition to that, we're very different. So he was listening to political news and watching the news every morning and feeding into that density. And I was not wanting to partake in that at all. But I had to get past that need for him to not do his own thing, if that makes sense. So, for example, and I've shared this story before, but I think it's very important. We were walking and I had seen chemtrails for a very long time, and he did not believe that chemtrails existed. Now, the chemtrail portion is really irrelevant, and I'll get to that maybe a little bit too from my perspective. And I was walking, and it was beautiful out, and the sky was gorgeous, and then right across there's this big plane that lets out I call it a chem fart. And I was angry about it. This was the stage I was in. I went through some anger and resentment and how could this be happening? Right? I think most of us that wake up go through that at some point. There's these like stages of what? Truth happens. And then we become angry and fear happens. And then we become angry about it. And then so there's different stages for some people. I feel like I went through all of those stages. Then there's the bliss stage. And so I pointed them out. I'm like, how could you not see that? And he goes, finally, after months of us going back and forth and him just saying, what? They're clouds. It just happens naturally, blah, blah, blah. He finally goes, I see them. I get it that there possibly could be a chemtrail. What do you want me to do about it? That was one of the most awake moments. He was awake more than I was in that moment from my multidimensional perspective now. And I stopped and I went, well, what do I want you to do about it? I just wanted him to say yes. I wanted him to agree with me. I wanted him to be awake enough to recognize that this stuff was going on. But then beyond and above and beyond all that, I wanted validation that I wasn't crazy. So combining all of those things together, but in that moment, him saying, what do you, and he continued and said, you want me to get angry and shake my fist at the sky? They're there. Is it going to ruin my walk? No. And something happened. There had been a transition where he had gone from not admitting they were there to saying, yes, there's something there, but I'm not going to let it change me and my mood. I'm not going to, me getting angry about it doesn't better the situation. And all of a sudden, that caused me to shift my vibration. It was magical. It was a really magical moment because I had all of everything that I wanted from an egoic point. Validation, I'm not crazy, my spouse is on board, but he still wasn't on board because I was holding a frequency of fear, anger, and etc., etc. So it was a huge awakening for me. And in that moment, I recognized that he's waking up too in his own way, on his own level. We don't have to be doing it in the same way. And I think that that was a major shifting point for both of us. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to enjoy this walk. You're right. And ever since then, my whole vibration regarding fear-based information, fear-based programming changed. Now, we oscillated in and out, and I'm not going to go through all that, but I want to get back to the relationship aspect because what I've learned and what I really have been guided to share with you guys in this moment is that we're constantly being given a new perspective or a new viewpoint or a new way of changing our frequency, changing our perspective from who we are in this moment, not from who we were a year ago. And we're being invited to stop and recognize that. I could have in that moment said, yeah, get angry. I want you to get angry. I want you to recognize. But wait, there's more. Did you know that? Fill in the blank, right? But it's the little things. That was a step in the right direction for both of us. And so many ahas happened from that point forward. So what I'm seeing in the collective is a lot of people are missing those steps because they're so wrapped up into, okay, yeah, but now this is happening. Look at the government. Look at this. Look at that. And the biggest message that comes through is, let's focus on us. Let's not focus on, is our spouse doing what they need to do? Let's focus on what we're doing because when we do that, we become the tuning fork for change. And it is literally scientifically proven or measurable in linearity, but also in nonlinear form, that coherence, and I'm going to call it tuning and being in a coherent space, does tune our environment around us. Our field goes out 5 to 8 feet, I believe, 3 to 5 feet on average, but it can get as big as 15 feet that's been measured. Maybe it's bigger. And that's how much we are affecting or having an effect on the environment around us. People, animals, plants, our home, our space, everything. So that's why the guides always come back to that. Are we the tuning fork? Are we in coherence? Are we recognizing that we just had a stepping stone, that we didn't skip it? So we saw it for what it was. And by stepping on that stone, it's like Indiana Jones. Now a new clue is revealed or a new turning point. And the message that they kept bringing through was a node is revealed. So it's a knowing is revealed in that moment. And of course, once we get beyond all of that, we go to that space of just allowing ourselves to be in a coherent space for one another. Are we holding space? And that's the space that everybody talks about. That space of coherence, of 0 point, of the eye of the storm. You might be spinning out of control around me, right? But I'm going to focus on being compassionate for myself and for you. I'm not going to feed, though, that spin. I'm not going to feed the victim. I'm not going to feed the controller. I'm not going to feed the bully. I'm not going to feed the all of these, what are they called? Concepts, but there's a name for it. I know Freud has certain terms, or Jung, Carl Jung. Is that how you pronounce it? I have a lot of his books that I've read over the years, gift from a beautiful light worker. But my point is, not matriarchs. You guys know that have taken psychology. And the funny thing about it is it doesn't matter. Those labels don't matter anymore. So if they did it one time, oh, that's victim, I'm going to clear that. And if it still is pertinent for you, then great. Pertinent for you, that's where you're at on your journey. Clear that energy, dissolve it, integrate it, digest it, so that it can be used for greater good, from one perspective. But the bigger picture is that that's all an old paradigm. There is no victim-victimizer. There is no controller, controlee, if we're in that space, if we're in that heart, higher heart, mind-body connection. And that's when we're connecting in with our vessel, which leads me back to what I said in the other video about cleaning house. I think I said that. And if I didn't, I'm going to say it now. Taking care of our vessel. This is our spaceship. We're holding space in this vessel. And when we care for us, we are then able to care for others. And I've talked about that. And it's not about caring for us to care for others, because then that puts us in that, again, that's outside of us. It's caring for us to care for us, because that's part of what we're here to do. It's not like, oh, I've got to take care of myself so that I can look after my children. Well, yes, of course, that's important, but that isn't why. That's just one of the things that maybe we are participating in from this vessel. So it's cleaning out those thoughts that are connected through energetic cords to our past. It's cleaning out our house, literally, old remnants. I brought up practical magic. They clean out this, the broom sweeps out the remnants of old entities, parasites, shadows, whatever. Get rid of it. It's, I dreamed about people last night hanging on to old VHS tapes. And it wasn't just VHS tapes of themselves, it was of the people around them. So that's kind of the next thing that they're talking about, is letting go of our need to hold someone in a certain space. When we hold space for someone, it's non-judgment. It's gratitude. It isn't expectation. Oh, this person let me down. No, that person didn't let you down. You let yourself down. That's what my guides keep saying, is that's a reflection of you expecting them to behave a certain way. Nobody can let us down. We give them permission to let us down, or we then say, I expected better of you. Let's not worry about what we expect other people to do. Other people are going to do what other people are going to do. We are only responsible for us. When we take on that responsibility, what those other people do doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't affect us in the same way, because we're not, it's like thinking of cause and effect, because we're not causing them by our expectation on them to behave a certain way. We're not saying, oh, because of our expectation, right, of their behavior, now I'm disappointed. You choose in that moment to hold that space. Space can hold emotions, right? Ego-based fears or trappings, they like to call it, my guides like to call it. So I just wanted to kind of share that. And you guys, I also wanted to add too, when I say my guides, I'm even trying to get rid of using that as my terminology. I just have been doing it out of habit. We are connecting with our highest aspect, our higher self. We are embodying our mastery. So it's no longer, again, about things outside of us. So I love my guides, and they do still talk to us, talk to me. I still interact, but I recognize that I am one with my guides. Therefore, all I need to do is plug into that aspect, and I'm sharing this with me. So that's a whole other video, but I wanted to just kind of touch briefly on that because I've used that term for so long. It's just become a habit, and eventually I'll phase that out. Although guides are still here to help us, but they have shifted in their roles as well. And that's, I think I just did a video on that. I can't remember if I posted it or not, but all right, I'm going to end on this node. In love and light, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I don't know if I clarified or ended the relationship aspect about it. I wanted to clarify too that there are some relationships that are needing to come to an end, because if we can't grow together, then it might be that it's okay to move on for both people involved. Again, is the reason that we're not able to grow together because we are expecting them to grow in a certain way. And again, if we give it enough opportunity, I almost used the word time, but it's not about time anymore. If we give the relationship an opportunity to expand based on us coming back into our own growth, it might just naturally occur. Again, tuning fork terminology. So I do feel that because I chose this path and because my husband and I love each other, and he is able to hold space for me after getting past his fear of what I was tapping into, right? We then allow each other to grow together in our own way. Had I have stayed in ego, and I say this with love, not like ego's this monster or bad thing, but had I have stayed in, well, I need to be supported and I need to be validated, I never would have allowed him to expand to meet me where I'm at. Not to say that I was higher above him or not. He was very awake in his own way. There is no better or there's just layers. So my point is, we never would have reached that level together had I have put unrealistic expectations on his growth potential, because that actually would have stymied, right, or stunted his growth potential, because then I'm like blocking it. Like, nope, you need to meet me here. So it is about, again, opening, holding that space. Now, if so many opportunities come up and neither person can find that expansiveness together, that obviously is a different story. But I'm just sharing that that's what I'm seeing happen in relationships with a lot of people. So I wanted to share a little bit about my own, because I'm so grateful where I'm at now versus where I was 4 years ago. And I'm so grateful for the opportunities that have come up, even though those opportunities may have been presented in what seemed like challenges, because they were golden treasure that now is being digested, I guess is the right word, or has been digested and now has added to everything in a positive way. So in love and light, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Namaste.